Welcome to Out Games. My name's Logan Plan, joined today by Zach Ross. How's it going, Zach?
Good. You don't often bring me up first, so I was unprepared and now I'm thrown off my game.
And we're
Alrighty,
also
again.
joined by Kevin Valine. Hi, Kevin.
Doing good, just a little bit tired. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited today about our first news story, as
It's
I'm sure
big.
you guys are too.
Very
Oh,
big.
absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah, Lost Judgment. A Judgment sequel has been confirmed. It was basically inevitable. We knew most likely this was coming, and now we know for sure that it is. It is a simultaneous worldwide launch, which we were talking about last week. We really wanted the series to go in that direction, so that's very exciting. Coming September 24th on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series S/X. Nagoshi says they will shoot for all games moving forward to have a simultaneous worldwide release. Trailer looks great. There was some gameplay. There was a very in-depth 5-minute long story trailer that I stopped watching halfway through because I had seen it enough. The gameplay looks great too. Kevin, we'll start with you. Lost Judgment, first impressions of this announcement.
It looks really good, and it makes total sense that they're deciding to go back to Yokohama and use that map since they've already got it from Like a Dragon. They didn't go too in deep on the changes that they had made since Like a Dragon, but they were talking about, Yokohama having changes based on, the day-night cycle, which I don't remember being too much of a thing in Yakuza Like a Dragon. So it's nice to go back down there again. Some of the new things that they've been adding with the high school and some of the new mini games with the skateboarding and the dancing, and they showed off like a mini they showed off boxing and like a mini robot battle thing. So you've got the crazy mini games that you've gotten in all the other Yakuza and Judgment games. Yeah, it looks good. And I think one of the other things that we've been talking about is that they are sticking with the old school combat. And what we'll probably get into a little bit later is that we were kind of right in talking about how it seemed like the regular Yakuza series was going off into this new RPG direction, and the Judgment series would hold the torch of the original Yakuza games with its beat-em-up style. But looks really good. Of course, the story looks great as well. I am very excited and also very happy that they're doing a worldwide launch same day on September 24th, and that not only for this game, but all their games moving forward, they're going to try and do that.
Yep.
Yeah, very exciting. Zach, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that I'm happy about is now they're coming out in America on the same day. Hopefully, every new release in the future will be at least close to that. I'm glad that they are continuing with the beat 'em up style of the original Yakuza games. I'm also glad they're not taking themselves too seriously. We saw Yagami dancing in the trailer, so there's still all that lighthearted stuff that the Yakuza series is known for is bringing over. I didn't stop halfway through the story trailer. It did show quite a bit for the story. You could piece some stuff together, but I'm sure by the time the game comes out, I will have forgotten everything, so it's really not that big of a deal for me. Logan's probably different. He's got a lock and key memory. He'll remember everything. So it probably was for the best that he didn't see it. But I think it looks really good so far. It won't be a PS5 exclusive. It'll be on current gen as well, so it won't be able to push the hardware quite as much. They will have to do plan to play for PS4. So it won't be the first one exclusively for next gen consoles. That'll probably be Yakuza 8 or something like that. But and for the day night cycle, I believe the only use in Like a Dragon that it was ever used for was like locking out side missions. Some were only available at night, some were only available at day, and you were able to change day and night pretty much whenever. So it really isn't that big of a change. And I don't know how it's going to be utilized for this game, probably in a very similar way. I'm just super excited. It looks very good. More Yakuza. I'll never complain about more Yakuza. So excited that we're getting something in 2021.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I'm excited that this is something I can jump right into without the daunting task of the entire Yakuza series. Loved the first Judgment. Story is great. Was really excited to see basically every character from Judgment make an appearance in that original trailer. Like they're bringing everybody back, which is exciting. Yagami's wearing his same leather jacket and low cut white T-shirt, the exact same outfits. That's nice, and he has a skateboard now. which is pretty cool. That showed him zooming around the city on that. One thing I did see a little bit of the gameplay, and it looks like they're refining the investigation parts a bit. Like, I don't know if you guys saw this, like parts where he's kind of like parkouring around
Yeah,
this crime scene that he's investigating, and it seemed like more of a focus on like platforming and movement rather than what I thought was actually the worst part of Judgment was the tailing and the investigations. I saw the tailing and it
it's
looked
back.
pretty similar. It did not look very changed, and I did not like that part of the original Judgment. So hopefully there are some smaller differences there that make it like just more frequent checkpoints, even because some of the checkpoints, especially in one of the last chases you do in the game, was absolutely brutal. So hopefully they fix some of that. But I was interested to see that they were doing a different approach to the investigations, because I think that was a main criticism that a lot of people had, was that those segments just weren't that fun.
Yeah, it looked like there was another section where he was hiding behind a wall and threw some sort of device, probably something to like listen in on a conversation, like threw it into this like group, like 2 or 3 people talking. So it looks like they do have some new ideas to throw into the investigation side. Yeah, the tailing mission looked about the same as it did back in the original. Who knows if there's going to be some changes that we just didn't see, but it does look like they're tweaking and adjusting some of the things in the investigation side, which is important because that was kind of weak in the original.
Yeah, and it looked like more of a stealth bent also to some of these things. Like you saw, like him throwing objects, like you throw bricks in The Last of Us. Like the arc shot even looked the same, like on screen. And then ducking behind cover and things like that. It just looked like there was some more stealth elements as well. So I'm all for a shake up on that, because, like I said, it was definitely the least engaging part of it. And I think that anything they can do to add new gameplay elements to break up the melee combat, I think is a good thing. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that aspect of it too. And then the side stuff just looked pretty neat too. It looked like a lot of focus on this school that they kept showing.
Yeah, it was kind of funny to me how they were like, oh, they were talking about like it's like a groundbreaking thing, and it is cool that it's like, it's all like rendered in high detail, and they've rendered this whole school with the gym and the halls and the classroom and all this stuff. And of course, I'm sure that it'll provide a bunch of opportunities for interesting side stories. And of course, you have the activities at the school, which is where the robot competition comes into play, where the boxing comes into play, where the dancing. So it's all kind of tied to that. But I do think it's kind of funny because, a lot of these Japanese games are focused on that. Persona 5 is like exclusively in a school and stuff. So that was kind of funny to me.
It's groundbreaking, man.
Yeah, crazy. But yeah, it should lend itself to some interesting stories with the sub stories in this game, both inside the school and out.
Yeah, definitely. And then that new fighting style too. In addition to the tiger and crane from the original, they're adding a new snake one, which looked pretty neat. Yeah, I was pretty excited by everything I saw, and super excited it's coming in September, which is looking to be a pretty busy month now for Zach, with Deathloop coming out as well. So what's your priority between Lost Judgment and Deathloop, which you've been excited about for a while?
I mean, as if all goes well, I'll have a PS5 in September, but just in case I don't, it's got to be Lost Judgment on the PS4. I don't want to play Lost Judgment on PS4. I really don't. But if I don't have a PS5 in September, I'm going to have to be playing something. So probably going to be Lost Judgment. But if I do have a PS5, I can't imagine Deathloop's going to be that long. Probably less so than Lost Judgment. That's usually how I end up picking things, is I play the shorter game first. So probably Deathloop. But I could be entirely wrong. I'll just have to look up how long it is to beat Deathloop beforehand.
Yeah, and speaking of getting a PS5, Kevin, you said this is the game pushing you over the edge?
Yeah, I mean, I love these games, and I want to be able to play it in the best performance. And with Yakuza Like a Dragon, I mean, Xbox Series X and S and an Xbox One, that was released day and date. But PS4, you had to wait until the PS5 version came out months later in between the PS4 version launching. So there wasn't that much of an incentive for me to go out and pick up a PS5 to play it, because I would have to wait a couple of months, although the whole save situation was kind of brutal. But here, they're launching the same day, and I'd really like to play it in the best performance that I can. And hopefully a PS5 will be available somewhere in the next 4 months in between when this game comes out and now. But yeah, I'd just like to be able to play it in the best performance, and I could get that on PS5.
Yeah, it's interesting. It is coming to Xbox on launch day, and the first Judgment is still not on Xbox. It's like the only Yakuza game now that's not. Is that right?
It came out. The remaster
Oh, it did come out? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
my
PC
bad.
that it's not on.
Oh, okay.
So all of the other Yakuza games, I believe, have come to PC, and Judgment is still missing. But I think Judgment only came to Xbox with this remaster that came out.
Oh, okay, gotcha. The remaster that we all kind of thought looked worse.
Yeah.
And then,
but it's got 60 FPS.
Okay, never mind. Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
But yeah. A weird game to pick for to try and get into PS5 is a game that is cross-generation, and you know, these games don't usually push the boundaries too far. And it's been pretty common that these games have released on last gen and current gen. I mean, you look back, at least in Japan, Yakuza 0 came out on the PS3 and came out on PS4. So
wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's pretty normal for them to go cross gen. But yeah, I'm gonna try and get a PS5 before this comes out. Who knows if that's going to be entirely possible? We'll get into that a little bit later. But gonna try to for Lost Judgment, and then all the other stuff that's gonna be coming out too.
Yeah. There's also a leak saying that Lost Judgment might have a season pass story DLC after launch, which the original Judgment just had like that cosmetic DLC that was like super expensive. I remember that was like not really very much content, but this leak says that there would be story focused DLC, which would be a first for the series for either Judgment or Yakuza. So I think that would be an interesting direction for them to go, instead of just kind of moving on to the next entry like they seem to do so quickly.
Yeah, it looks like they have the digital deluxe version, so I think that comes with the season pass for whatever this DLC turns into. But
I kind of hope they don't go in that direction. I feel like the Yakuza stories have one massive, encompassing, tight story. I don't think they really need paid DLC story expansions. I feel like they end off pretty well, and then the sequels are out within like not a very long amount of time. So I really don't think the DLC is a good idea for this series. But Judgment might be their testing series for paid DLC story content, because now they might use Judgment they're using Judgment to test waters, or like they used Yakuza 7 to test waters of the new gameplay. Like, they're testing stuff out, so I wouldn't be surprised. I just hope if they do it, it isn't well received, so they stop doing it.
It's kind of true though that I look back on like every Yakuza game that I've played, and I don't think I really needed any story DLC afterwards. The story is from start to finish, you know, it covers everything, and once the story is done, I don't think I've ever looked back and said, man, I could really use a few more hours like beyond that story. Like, I guess I don't. Maybe it'll be good. I don't know. Their stories are usually good, so maybe they can make a really good, tight story DLC. But that is true that I've never really felt the need for anything beyond what the main story provided.
I just hope that plans for DLC don't make them change what the story would be in Judgment 2.
That is true, yeah.
We'll see. I could see it being like some quirky, fun side thing too.
Yeah, like a small case that he could solve.
Yeah,
like a really small case, like someone threw a rock through a window. I don't know.
I think about like how Ace Attorney did DLC, and they did like the weirdest freaking cases were their DLC, and their cases are already really weird in Ace Attorney. But like Dual Destinies was the first time the series experimented with DLC, and that DLC case, the defendant that Phoenix defended in the case was literally like a whale. Like you defended a whale in court, and it was just the most bonkers case the series has done, and they just threw it in as DLC. So yeah, if it's just like some really fun, quirky side story that doesn't have a lasting impact, that would be cool.
I'd be okay with that.
But if it's like an actual story expansion that matters to the future games, I think it'd be kind of weird to see the series do that.
Yeah.
Something else I want to bring up real quick, though, is this going to be Kevin's 2021 Game of the Year? Will the Yakuza series be his Game of the Year for, I believe, the 4th year in a row? I believe since 2018,
I mean,
your Game of the Year.
It's looking
what
like
was 2018?
It's going to be great.
Yakuza 6?
Kiwami 2?
Is Yakuza 6 your Game of the Year? Or Kiwami 2? What was 6? 2018?
I have to look back on it. I don't know. I have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know Judgment in 2019 was both of our games of the year, and then you gave it to Like a Dragon, which I had not played in 2020. Well, I played it a little bit in 2020, but I had not beaten it in 2020. Yeah, so could be.
I'm pretty sure Kiwami 2 was your Game of the Year in 2018.
That makes sense.
They're all
Kiwami
great
2 is
games,
amazing.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so this could be it.
That all these games are great. Is 2018 that we were?
Yeah, we're wondering about 2018.
2018. I would have to assume that it is.
It's all documented somewhere.
2017 surely would have been Super Mario Odyssey. I think was your Game of the Year in 2017. But
yeah.
I think it's been Yakuza ever
0.
since. I think it's been the annual Yakuza release taking the crown every year.
They're all well deserving. So
yep.
a new front runner just launched.
Yeah, I mean the Game of the Year discussion for me is just waiting for the next Yakuza game and then being like, well, there it is.
Yep.
So does this mean Yakuza 8 next year?
Wait, for me though, I don't. Did I put Like a Dragon first? No, I did. I did do that.
Yeah, you did
put Like a Dragon first. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, probably.
So this is it.
We'll see.
Kevin's Game of the Year coming out September 24th. Lost Judgment. Super excited to play that later this year.
Man, what is my Game of the Year 2021 gonna be? Rise. It's gotta be.
Sports Story.
Yeah.
Where is that?
Sports Story.
Where
See it at
is
E3.
that game?
See it at E3.
Oh gosh, I hope so. Yeah. Anyways, let's move on to, Kevin alluded to it, Sony is expecting PlayStation 5 shortages to continue until at least 2022. So
not looking good.
This is from a Bloomberg report. A group of analysts say that the supply constraint is going to continue. And yeah, there's that chip shortage, which is the semiconductor shortage, which is impacting so many industries across not just video games, but beyond that. Like it's impacting the auto industry significantly as well. So yeah, PS5 could continue to be hard to find, and plus the demand is just huge for it. It outsold the PS4 to become like the fastest selling console in both unit sales and dollar sales. So it's not like they haven't made any of these to sell. It's just they sell out instantly. Scalpers are just scooping them up. Yeah, I have seen Xboxes in stock more lately. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the Xbox, like there have been like hours of availability where you had a window to buy it before it goes sold out. But I have never once clicked on like a PS5 link out of curiosity. It's like, hey, are these available right now? And seen that they've been available. Like they go out 1 minute after they pop in stock, still consistently. Here we are, almost to the date, 6 months since this thing came out. So yeah, it's rough that it could be another half a year or more of this when games are starting to come out. Exclusive games, Returnal. You've got Ratchet and Clank coming. You've got a report that says Horizon is still a 2021 game. You've got all these cross-gen games coming out, like Judgment, which is going to have next-gen versions. And we're starting to get to the point where I think it's really going to impact people now that the PS5 exclusives are starting to roll out, when really to this point it had largely been cross-gen titles that people could just pick up on PS4 if they really wanted to play them.
Yeah, this was definitely disappointing. For the longest time, I was hoping that by the end of this year they'd have things relatively sorted out, and that by the time we were rolling into 2022, it'd be at least a little bit easier to find one. But from what this report says, we could be in the second half of 2022 and still find it incredibly hard to find a PS5 on, in store shelves. And yeah, that could get really frustrating for people when there are these huge exclusives that are already out that they just can't get because they can't get the console. This was definitely disappointing news for me.
Especially since you're joining the hunt. You're in it now.
I am. Yeah. Started to follow. Following the Japanese Twitter accounts that post about PS5 availability. There was one on Rakuten that came in and was gone in a minute. They posted it.
Dang.
I saw it later. It was like 20 minutes after they posted it, and I went into the chat, and 2 minutes after they posted it, someone posted that it was already gone. So,
oh my god.
Yeah, it's it is going to be a struggle. Hopefully I can luck my way into one like other people have had in the past. But not only does this mean that people are going to be having a difficulty buying this for the next year and a half, it means that scalpers are going to continue having a field day with this for another year or whatever, and just having more of the consoles being snatched up by scalpers or being sold for $900+ is really frustrating.
Yeah, I'm just glad I decided to go for it when I saw him pop in that 5-minute window on Amazon 6 months ago. Because if not, I'd be in this group too, being hunting for one. And yeah, it sucks because there's just millions of people that are trying to get their hands on this thing and can't. And it is still the same for Xbox to a lesser extent. And I wonder if Nintendo does release a Switch Pro this year, it's probably going to use this semiconductor that no one is able to get enough of right now. So is that thing going to be impossible to find too when it launches? And it's just impacting everything right now. I'm just like, man, should they have just waited a year to release this thing? Like, there haven't been that many big exclusive next-gen games yet. Should they have just come out this fall when there could have been way more supply? But, I mean, the PS5 is still the fastest-selling console of all time in its first few months. And they will eventually be on store shelves. They will be.
Eventually. Who knows when that'll be?
2 years. It'll be a while. Now. This is a really slow start to this gen. Like, it still feels like we're in the PS4 generation. Like, feels like when I play a game, I'm playing on like a super PS4 Pro, not really on a next gen machine right now. And I'm looking forward to the point where the next gen consoles are the more common thing out there. And so we can finally start leaving the last gen ones behind, because it still kind of feels like I'm just mostly playing PS4 games, which is fine for right now, but I am looking forward to when that Switch does actually happen.
And it seems to happen for most consoles a little ways in, where they're doing the either multi-platform launches, or they're doing or cross-generation launches, and they're doing stuff that was not necessarily built from the ground up for that console. Maybe they'd swapped it over to the new gen. So they'll come here eventually. And we get Ratchet and Clank in the summer, and you've got Horizon, but for Horizon, I guess, still is PS4. We'll see how that runs on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Question is, will this thing be on store shelves by the time its revision comes out? I'll be curious if we're gonna get a PS4 Slim or PS5 Slim like the same time that the PS5 becomes available on store shelves.
I honestly wonder if just the lack of availability is going to push that timeline back a little bit. Because if this thing's not widely available, and then in 2 years it's like, hey, here's a revision, I think people are going to be ticked. Like,
oh yeah,
man, we haven't even been able to find the first one you've made, and now you're going to make a slightly better one we have to struggle to try and get. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's a little further down the line than it might have been in the plans for. Because there will be a Slim at some point, like absolutely. But I think
maybe just a shorter version, not even a Slim version. Yeah.
We do need that. Yeah. The short PlayStation 5 short. Zach, what are your thoughts, since you're going to, I mean, you're waiting a little bit longer than me to join it, but you're going to be hopping in here pretty soon with Deathloop coming out in September.
Yeah, I may be waiting a little longer, but if these things, at least until 2022, aren't going to have any more, widespread availability, I'm not a huge fan of the hunt. I kind of just like easily buying things. Oh, that's a good point. I do like hunts. But I only like specific hunts. Like, I could easily go find a monster. I can't go easily find a PlayStation 5. So, I don't know. I definitely don't love the fact that they're not available. I really want one, and I know I'm going to want one even more once things start coming out that I really want to play and won't be able to on PS4, like the Final Fantasy Intergrade for the 7 remake
that's a big one.
coming out in June, which is super soon. And then rolling out in September, Deathloop. I want to play Lost Judgment on PS5. I mean, things are going to start coming out sooner rather than later, and these things are going to become available later rather than sooner. So it just doesn't. It's rough. I don't love it. Hopefully, I'll luck into one at some point, like Kevin said. Eventually, I'll open Twitter, and like 30 seconds ago, someone will have tweeted they're available, and in that 30-second window, I'll be able to buy one. But it's really up in the air. There's no guarantees, and that's what sucks about it.
Yeah, just a brutal start to this gen for a lot of people, but there still is a lot to play on current gen consoles. Mass Effect's coming out this week, right? Comes out on Friday, and then you got Biomutant coming out in a couple of weeks.
I swear they still have shown very little of that game, and it comes out like they were doing their final trailers, and they were sending it off to news outlets to do previews of, and I feel like I still know nothing about it. Still know very little. They were doing some gameplay. Some outlets had some gameplay, but it was still like 6, 7, 8 minutes, and I'm like, this is weird. Like, just the fact that I know so little about this game, and it's been announced for so long, and it's coming out like now. I don't know if that means it's good or it's bad or they just don't care. I don't know. Yeah. But it is coming out. Did you see the performance discrepancy between PS5 and Series X versions of Mass Effect?
No, I didn't.
That the PS5 version is capped at 60 frames per second and Series X goes 120.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
But how many people really have TVs that do 120? Like I have a 4K TV and it's capped at 60. Like I think 120 it's something that's really not going to impact that many people.
I'm more curious what it means moving forward in terms of like a power discrepancy between the PS5 and the Series X, because it does seem like the Series X is more powerful.
Yeah, which is, or I don't know if more powerful for sure, but better. It's just better at optimizing older games, which is what they said it was going to do. Is that it was really wired to run these older games. Yeah, it's a remaster, but it's still at its core, these games are older games, and I've seen that the Series X is just better at boosting these things up to 120 than the PlayStation 5 is. But yeah, I think in a few years that difference could really be known. But right now, like 120 is only on some way higher end 4K TVs. Like most people that have a 4K TV will just have a 60. Yeah, but still good for those people that I've never seen 120 FPS. I don't even know what that looks like.
Heard it sounds smooth. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm personally fine with 60, but maybe if I see 120, I'd be like, wow.
That is kind of the thing though, right? Because I play on 30 and I'm like, this is fine. But I'm sure once I hit 60, I'll be like, oh, 30 is unacceptable. And then once we get to the point where 120 is the normal, I'll be like, 60? What is that? I can't play that. It's always just like you don't know what you have until you get to that point.
Yeah, it was interesting. I kind of was worried that playing games locked 60 on PS5 would ruin like playing games on Switch at 30, but it actually hasn't. It's just like I'm still not even used to how good some stuff runs on PS5. I which is good. I was worried I'd be desensitized to it at this point, but I still booted up. I'm like, dang, that looks good. It's not the opposite effect of I go to Switch. I'm like, that looks crappy. That hasn't really happened yet. But I think as games look better and better and better, we're going to get more used to it. And then the Switch is going to start to look kind of nasty, but it still doesn't. Yeah, it still looks good. But I was worried about that after like a month with the PS5 that would wear off. And I would be like, well, it can't play on 30 now. But fortunately, that's not the case yet.
That Pro version from Switch, I mean, 4K somehow, probably not 60 yet, but we'll see what's in the cards for them for more powerful consoles.
You guys believe we're a month away from E3? Whatever E3 is going to be. More and more companies are saying they're part of it.
Yeah, I think it's going to have some good reveals.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be nothing there. So, a little bit to look forward to.
One reveal that could be there is a new Donkey Kong game from Nintendo. Sources say that Nintendo EPD is making a 40th anniversary for the Donkey Kong series.
40 years.
This is the team that made Super Mario Odyssey. They haven't done anything since Odyssey came out. 3D World and Bowser's Fury was handled by a different team, not by the standard 3D Mario team, actually. So this year is Donkey Kong's 40th anniversary, and the report says there is a new 2D/2.5D Donkey Kong game being developed. Some other people who claim to have knowledge of this say don't expect the country title to return, as EPD Tokyo are not interested in making sequels to games they didn't make. Of course, Rare made the original Donkey Kong Country trilogy, and then Retro made the 2 revival games. And of course, Retro has their hands full with Metroid Prime 4 right now. So new Donkey Kong game from the 3D Mario team, but sounds like it could be a 2D Donkey Kong game. Kevin, you played Tropical Freeze. You really liked it. You love Odyssey. How does this news strike you?
First thought is a little bit of confusion because Retro's done so much with the Donkey Kong Country games with returns, both the one on Wii and Tropical Freeze on Wii U and Switch. So if anyone was to make another Donkey Kong game, I would just assume that it would be Retro going after it. It also makes me wonder of what's in the cards for Mario moving forward. If they've been working on a sequel to Odyssey, or if they've been working on an entirely new Mario project, or if this is the only thing that they're working on. I am curious what that means for Mario, but it's the Mario Odyssey team. It has to be at least some levels of good. Like I can't imagine them making a bad game. It just strikes me as a little bit odd when they have a developer that is known for it and has made some very good games with the Donkey Kong license. But again, it'll probably be at least good. And I am curious what that means in terms of not being a Donkey Kong Country game, with Retro doing that, Rare before it, and then Retro now. What exactly that means for like a different tone, or if it'll feel very similar but is just not holding the country name. I wonder what that means, or if there will be enough to differentiate them.
To me, this should be a 3D game. That's what would differentiate it. You have the country games, which are like, they're known for being like difficult and just really different platformers than the other ones Nintendo does. And it's kind of like, man, you just created the greatest 3D platformer of all time with Super Mario Odyssey. Come on, give a 3D platformer to another series. There's only been one, Donkey Kong 64, which there's a good game underneath all the collectible garbage it makes you do. Like, I enjoy Donkey Kong 64, but there's just too many collectibles, which is its big main issue at the time. And I think that just a 3D Donkey Kong platformer from the Odyssey team sounds awesome to me. Like, that sounds really cool. And just to hear that it is going to be another 2D game, that's all we've been seeing from Donkey Kong lately. I really like Donkey Kong Country Returns, and I freaking love Tropical Freeze. I think that game is amazing. So I just do wonder if it's going to stand out, if it's going to be as good as Tropical Freeze, because that game is one of the best 2D platformers ever, I think. I think Tropical Freeze is incredible.
Yeah,
so I think it has amazing. A lot to live up to. And coming from a different team, I don't know what that's going to feel like. And to me, I'm just like, this seems like a missed opportunity to take a series into 3D. But maybe it's like, this is a secondary project for this team who is mostly focused on the next big 3D Mario title. Like, who knows? But to me, it's just kind of confusing, and I do wonder, what it's going to be called and what it's going to look like. Zach, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I've never personally played a Donkey Kong game. I've always wanted to get into the 2D Donkey Kongs. Like, Tropical Freeze always stood out to me because it was like the most recent one, and that was when I really started looking at those kinds of games. It's nice that they're not looking to make a sequel to anything, so it could be considered a hopping on point. I'm sure a lot of these games you could hop in anywhere you want. It doesn't really matter. But the fact that this game is probably going to stand out and do a lot of new stuff, it's good for me, especially because it's always been one of those series that I've never been into, and Donkey Kong, huge staple in video game history. So I personally might have my eye on it. Because, like I said, this is a series that I've always been semi-interested in. So, whatever.
Yeah, I think this game will have a lot less bite than Tropical Freeze does. That game can get really hard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's
I know,
some
yeah.
brutal
That's
stuff.
what I saw.
So yeah, if this is just from the Mario team, probably more of a mainstream platformer than the country games, which yeah are kind of hardcore, especially in terms of Nintendo games. Um, so yeah, they had to add in that funky mode and raise the price $10 when it came to Switch.
That's the real difficulty.
Yeah, there's part of some of the leakers say that Diddy, Cranky, and the Kremlin crew should all be returning. If it weren't for that sentence, I would almost wonder if it would be like if it was going to be a Donkey Kong game in the vein of Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong on the Game Boy, Donkey Kong 94, where you play as Mario and like climb the tower and the girders to rescue Pauline or rescue Peach, which could be a really interesting thing to return to with a modern game, because that series eventually morphed into the Minis series, which was good for a while and then fell off a cliff, and now it's kind of just in a really weird abandoned place. So if they kind of took that back to its roots, where you're still playing as Mario and going through these levels where Donkey Kong is the villain, and that's your 40th anniversary title, that could be really cool. But the leak says that it's going to be like with Diddy and these other characters. But if the leak is off base and that's actually what this is, that could be a really cool game for the mainline Mario team to tackle.
And that would make a lot more sense as a 40th anniversary title, harkening back to Donkey Kong's roots instead of being like, here's another game in a similar vein to a game that came out a couple of years ago. Would make a lot more sense. But yeah, out of all of this, I think the one thing I would want the most would be a 3D platformer from Donkey Kong. Any 3D platformer from the team that made Odyssey, I'd want to play, whether or not that's the next 3D Mario game or something new. So that is disappointing that it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, maybe E3 in a month.
Yeah. And then just another quick mention here. I think I mentioned it last week too. The Apple versus Epic trial is continuing, and there's just a lot of crazy stuff coming out from it. Things like Epic offering Sony $200 million for first-party exclusives, pursuing exclusives from Microsoft and Nintendo. Borderlands 3 exclusivity cost Epic $115 million, and just a bunch of other stuff. There's stuff coming out about every company in this thing, basically. It's pretty crazy. So, Kevin, was there any specific one you wanted to spotlight before we move on here?
The exclusives was kind of wild to me. Not necessarily Sony and Microsoft, because Microsoft puts their stuff on other platforms from time to time, and Sony's been releasing some things on Steam in the past. But the fact that they would go after Nintendo even a little bit is hilarious to me. Like, you think Nintendo's going to put their first-party exclusives on PC? It's just not going to happen. That was
on the Epic Games Store.
Yeah, on the Epic Games Store was very, very weird to me. And then the other bit with Microsoft never making money off of the actual Xbox console. Like, we know that at the start of a console generation, you're not going to make money off of the console, and you make money off of software. But the fact that it seemingly never makes money at any point is very interesting. That it's all based on software.
Yeah, that's something that Nintendo doesn't do. Like, I guess we've learned that Microsoft has just always sold at a loss, and Nintendo never sells hardware at a loss. Just interesting, different philosophies from the different companies. But yeah, you look at like the Xbox Series X and the PS5, they're for sure selling those at a loss. There's like some high-end PC stuff in these machines for $500, which is still a lot of money. But if you look at it like that, it's like, hey, that's a pretty good deal for what you're getting in that console. But yeah, interesting to learn that they've always done that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, because I always assumed that it was like once parts would get cheaper, and then they would release another console maybe 3 years in, or the original console, the price to manufacture just became cheaper. But the fact that they seemingly never did is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, because when parts get cheaper, they make a slim version that costs less, and I guess they're still selling it at a loss when they come in with that slim version that's like $100 or $150 cheaper. Like, what did the Xbox One S all digital edition, that thing launched at like $300, didn't it? I'm surprised that one was also still selling at a loss. Yeah, with no, because remember at the time we were like, you can get the SAD for $300 or the Xbox One S for $200 on this sale. That was just so stupid.
I remember that. That was really dumb.
Yeah.
But some crazy stuff coming out from this.
Yeah. So go check that out if you're interested in more. But that is it for the news this week.
All right, that covers it for the news this week. We'll move on to what we've been playing. I know for me personally, I'm still in a bit of a gaming hangover from Days Gone. Haven't started anything huge. Just thinking about Days Gone every day.
Too big a game.
Just can't get it out of my mind. Every time I boot up a game, I'm like, this isn't Days Gone. What's the point? But I have been playing more Monster Hunter Rise. That has been taking up a lot of my time. And Logan and I have been doing a lot of squads in Fall Guys Season 4, preparation for the 4.5. Season 4.5 drops, I think, tomorrow.
Nice.
So they'll release a new game, I assume. The 4.5 season is...
Two new games.
Yeah. That's exciting. That's a first for the half season. But it's been a particularly long first half of the season. But we've just been in the mood to play that. We've been squatting up with a couple other people, trying to get as many wins as possible coming into it. So that's been taking up a lot of my time as well. Had a couple games on I tried to play some more Mario, but Mario 64 is just
even without the drift.
I haven't. I mean, I tried to play it, meant that I thought about playing it and then just didn't.
Okay, so you still haven't played it after.
So I'm sure as soon as I play it without the drift, it's gonna change my whole mindset on that game, and I'm gonna like be able to get through it. I just need to get over a couple mental hurdles first. But for me, that hasn't happened yet, so all I've been playing is Monster Hunter and Fall Guys. So, Kevin, anything after the Mafia 1 remaster?
Decided to wait a little bit on Mafia 2. I'll get back to that at some point. I picked up Murder by Numbers on sale. It was on sale a couple of weeks ago, and so booted that up and played the first 2 cases. It's fun. Yeah, I had never played a Picross game before this, and I'll say that it is a little bit concerning that I think the pacing for someone who has not played a Picross game is already starting to falter a little bit. I think the first case pulled it off very well. I think the Picross sections weren't super difficult, so when you were searching for the items, it didn't take too long. And it was fun, and you're just like plowing through the Picross things. It's a nice like break in between, and I think that the pacing was quite good on that first case. But already in case 2, there have been some Picross puzzles that I was stuck on for a little while. For like doing it for an hour, I erased it a couple of times and had to redo it, and that'll just like kill the pacing. Where you're like, oh, here's this story beat. Oh, we got to do this. What is this item? And then I'm sitting here trying to do a Picross puzzle for like an hour. Just like, all right. How are we doing this here? Like, oh, I got to erase everything. On the Picross puzzles, man, I wish there was an option to erase the board instead of just being like, oh, I have screwed up and I do not know how to clean this up without redoing it. Time to go through every single block and erase every single block individually to reset the board. So that concerns me. I've also heard that there are missable Picross puzzles starting on case 3. So that's lame-o. So that kind of pushed me to put it down for a little bit after the second case. But
it's really hard to miss them though. Like you would have to just not investigate stuff. And like when an area is done. So if an area is not done, just don't leave. Okay. Yeah, it's I didn't miss one. Yeah, it's really hard to miss them.
All right, well, that's good. But, I think the core game is fun. The Picross I enjoy more than I thought I was going to. The story isn't anything like what the Ace Attorney games achieved, but I wouldn't say it's bad either. I think that it's good, and it's got its moments. Although I will say that there are many times where it's like, oh, what's going to happen here? And then you have to solve the puzzle to find the answer. But I already know what the answer is. Like, you've already got the answer. And so it makes going through the Picross puzzle a little bit less impactful because you already know what's going to happen. And it's just kind of a formality to get through the Picross puzzle. But yeah, I think it's a good time. Had some weird glitches with it though. I had one point where, you know how it's got like the little like beeping noise when you're investigating? Yeah. I clicked on the investigation thing and the beeping didn't go away. So it was beeping the entire time through the puzzle, so I muted it. And then I finished the puzzle.
Nice.
It was still beeping. So I'm like, all right, go back to the main menu. It's still beeping. So I had to like completely close the game and open it back up again to get rid of that. And then I also feel like the how you save is a little bit weird. So you can't save at any point in the dialogue. You have to save when you're at a point where you can either investigate or talk to somebody. And then if you're like in the investigation, you can also save. So that's already kind of weird. But I've also found that if you save at the point where you've got the option between investigating or talking to somebody, you save there and then boot the game back up again, it will start you from the dialogue before that section.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that happening too.
Is weird. So now I basically only save at the start of a Picross puzzle because I know that I won't have to replay anything. So yeah, there's some weird quirks with that game. But I think the core Picross puzzles are fun. The story, while nothing groundbreaking, is still enjoyable. I enjoyed the stories of the first two cases. Yeah. I think I've figured out that I enjoy Picross more than I thought I was going to.
That was my takeaway too, but you will hate it by the end. My God. Because it's like the story gets good. The story gets pretty good in the last case. And then it's like the amount of Picross just goes up and up and up. And you're doing like 15 by 15 grids, Picrosses, every stop. It's just like it just grinds the story to a halt, and you're like, the story is what I want right now, and the puzzles just get harder and the volume of them rapidly increases, and it's the biggest issue with that game.
Well, knowing that I was already kind of put off a little bit by the second case does not bode well for the third and fourth, because there already is more Picross puzzles in the second case than there was in the first case. So to have more and more in the third and fourth cases is concerning, and is why I decided, hey, after the second case, I'll put it down for a little while, because I did need some of a break from Picross.
I can't believe we're 2 months away from Ace Attorney's return. Oh my God. I
finish it before then.
I can't wait. I'm so excited.
But I knew that I was going to need a game to play alongside that, so I decided to pick up Xenoblade Definitive Edition.
Nice.
I didn't think I was going to get a big nostalgic bump from booting that game up again, but I did. Hearing that music on the title screen, seeing some of those first two cutscenes, and then that first little bit in the colony of just like walking around and taking quests and doing the first couple of story beats. I didn't beat the original game on Wii, but I still had this like huge nostalgic bump to all of the things that were happening in the first like hour or two. Something about that game, especially the beginning, is just very cozy, of just like walking around the colony, and the world building in that game is so good, of just this world, the inhabitants, the cities, and just traversal through the areas, that it's always a nice world to come back to. I didn't get too far into it. I think I'm only like an hour and a half, 2 hours in. I didn't have too much time, but I didn't know how much it was going to grab me right away, but I've already had multiple points where I've put it down. I'm like, man, I just want to keep playing. I want to keep going through. And I like the quality of life improvements that they've made in terms of quests and giving all of the icons of where quest items are, making that easier and more streamlined. The game looks so much better than it did on Wii. My God, like characters look like actual humans instead of just like these weird blobs. Yeah, I am excited to play more of that, because that game is so good. Love it.
Yeah, I gotta play that.
You own it, right?
I do.
Yeah. You own it. You got to get around to it. That game is a masterpiece. But yeah.
Too many games.
Yeah, there are too many games. That's all I've been playing. Logan, you been up to anything?
Yeah, actually, real quick, I missed this. They announced what the 2 new games are in Fall Guys, so I just want to go through that real quick, because one of them is something that I requested in a survey like 6 months ago. I pitched this idea, so I'm going to take credit for it. But the first one is called The Slime Scraper, and it's a sequel to Slime Climb, which is super exciting, because Slime Climb is one of the best games. And then the other one is called Button Bashers, and I don't know exactly what it is yet, but the description is players are split into 1v1 dueling pairs, and the best beans go through. That was something I thought would be cool if you competed against one person and like half the field was wiped out. So I don't know what that's going to look like, but that's super cool that you're just going to be pit against one person, and if you beat them, you advance. That's like that's really fresh. So yeah, there's also 55 additional variations. Custom lobbies are now open to everyone, with as few as 4 beans, so you can just get together with 3 people and just host your own lobbies, which is really cool.
Wow.
I wonder if you can win 5 in a row that way.
Gotta get back into that. I haven't played that game in months.
Yeah, for sure. But that's exciting. I'm excited to see those two variations, or those two.
Yeah, those
games.
sound like really cool additions. Very unique. Especially the button one. I'm excited to play that. And then just more variations is always good.
Yeah, so super exciting. But for what I've been playing, Fall Guys. Been playing Returnal. I'm still in the first biome. I said I'd be out. I'm not yet. I've not managed to get out yet. I had this incredible run that I died on the boss again. That boss is just kicking my butt. That game's brutal, man. Still having fun with it, though. I don't really think I have anything new to add, but I am still playing it. And then I got back into Sackboy. Sackboy Big Adventure on PS5. I was playing that with my girlfriend back when the PS5 came out, and there were these bonus levels that we just put down. We were like, we'll come back to this when we're craving the game again. So we hopped back in, and man, I almost forgot how freaking good it is. I think that game is incredible. If you have PS4 or PS5, I still heavily recommend it. It is just as good as Super Mario 3D World, and I can say that having just played Super Mario 3D World 2 times this year. So yeah, I highly recommend it. It's just so dang good. One of the best video game soundtracks out there too. So yeah, Sackboy is pretty phenomenal. If it's a game that's like ever like on PS Plus or something, 3 of us should do a run through of it, because they just added online play recently.
Oh, really?
Online play is a thing now, and I'm sure there's cross play between PS5 and PS4. So yeah, that'd be a really fun multiplayer game to get into sometime, because it's so good. And I'm gonna go back and we're gonna play the Little Big Planet, which I don't think is gonna be as good as this game. But I've always wanted to play Little Big Planets, and I've only ever casually played them at friends' houses.
Played the first one way back on PS3 many years ago, and I thought it was charming. I liked it a lot. Don't know why I never continued with the series, but yeah, I remember thinking it was actually pretty good. I'm sure it's nowhere near as good as the new one, but
well, it's a different style too, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, 2D
as compared to 3D.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but they're like 2.5D, where like you run. The goal is like you run side to side, but you can also like move forward and back.
Okay.
Tiny 2D plane. Which there are some levels like that in Sackboy that I feel like are kind of harkening back to classic Little Big Planet levels. But I've always heard that they're not, that the level creator is why people really like Little Big Planet, not really because of.
I do remember doing the level creator a lot.
Yeah, but I'm definitely gonna play them. I wish they were on PS4 or PS5, because I'm gonna have to hook up the PS3 to play these things, except for Little Big Planet 3. But yeah, 1 and 2 are only on PS3.
Backwards compatibility, man. Where is it? Brutal.
Yep. But that's what I've been playing. Also, MLB The Show, more of. I was playing an online game, and I had 19. I had struck out my opponent 19 times, and the record in real life Major League Baseball is 20 strikeouts in a single game. And I'm like, I'm gonna set the record in this video game. And then in the bottom half of the inning, I scored my 10th run of the game to make it 10-0. And then it's like online mercy rule in effect.
Oh no, you had to.
So it was over.
Last run?
I didn't get to go and strike out my 20th batter.
Dang.
Which was a shame, but yeah, I'm still having fun with that.
Any cool new stadiums? Just the same crowd?
No, I haven't been messing around in that actually as much as I thought I would. I've just been playing. But I would like to try and make something. Yeah. It's fun. I think I talked about last week that crossplay was fixed, right? That it was broken previously. But
Yeah.
So I've still been playing with my dad, who's on Xbox, and had a couple more freezes. It's kind of a broken mess at times, but they update it constantly, and it's getting better.
That's good.
Nice. All right, if that's it, move to the Ode 2. Been a slow couple of weeks for the Ode 2, but Zach gave us a decent idea. What was that, last week?
End of last week, yep.
End of last week to pitch a sequel. To a game that doesn't have one. So we're like, hey, we've got the sequel in Lost Judgment announced and coming out in September. So why don't we take the time then to pitch our own sequel to any game that we want? Zach, is it Days Gone 2 for you?
That's the whole reason I pitched this thing. So I could just come up with ideas for Days Gone 2.
I feel like we have to start with you because I'm very curious as to what your ideas are for the Days Gone sequel that will not exist because Sony has said no.
Yeah. The Days Gone sequel that they did pitch, that Sony Ben pitched, was a horrible idea, an online sort of amalgamation of people. It's just, I get why it was declined, and that's sort of what spurred on the idea of picking out bits and pieces of fixes for the first game that would make the sequel better, bring it from good to great, stuff like that. So I gave it some thought, and as much as I wanted to design the story for Days Gone 2, it would end up being pretty spoilery for the first game.
True. Well, at least in this section, probably shouldn't talk about the story all that much.
So once we do our spoiler cast for Days Gone, that's when I'll start bringing up some important story.
My God.
However, so just harkening back on the story real quick, I think that Days Gone was pretty good. Like I said, it wasn't great, but the setup in one of the secret endings has a lot of potential. So I think if they had, maybe a better creative director or a better writer for the second game, there's a lot that they could do there. So, writers, that's the start for the second game. And then cut down the fat in terms of missions. There was a million missions that didn't really need to happen, but keep the mission structure. I love the way that it was set up, how all the missions were like color coded, had percentages, and every time you did something for a person, their mission percentage would go up, so it felt like you were doing a football. And every time you did a mission, multiple mission like story percentages went up. So I really like that structure a lot. I just like it led a bunch of unnecessary missions that I think could easily trim the fat on a lot. So in the second game, definitely maybe lower the hours. It doesn't need to be a 40-hour game. It's pretty stretched. I think that it's okay to keep bike upgrades, but really don't do gas or the ditch system. That's where a lot of the upgrades went towards. But I think if you could still find a way to upgrade the bike in terms of speed or like damage or like ammo capacity without having the stupid gas and the stupid bike damage system. Because I hate how in like a lot of the chases you had to but the bike was super annoying. It didn't really make sense because you would have to like ram into them if your bike would take a lot of damage. It was kind of weird how the system was set up. So I think it would be okay to. Days Gone needs the bike, but I don't think it needs those aspects of it. And I think being able to save anywhere was also something that would lend well to it. I think it's a staple of newer generation games, being able to save anywhere. Maybe not Returnal game.
No,
I feel like most games should have it. I feel like
I think most games at this point should have it, and Days Gone is one of those games. I'm not sure why it didn't have it. It had a weird either be by a bed or be by your bike save system, which I don't really know why it did to do that, or if there was like a mechanical necessity that made it easier to do it that way. I'm not entirely figure out a way to not have that for the sequel, or I'm not going to play it. So, and then one other complaint, I think that hordes, the first required horde should be pretty early in the game. It took me 35 hours to get this required horde. I was terrible at it because I had no idea what to expect. I was just playing the game. I think at that point expected me to have optional hordes. I didn't. So I think that there really needs to be, and there was 3 overall within the last 5 hours of the game. So I think that the pacing and the amount of required hordes should be like maybe 4 or 5 throughout the entire game. I think that the hordes is like the big draw and uniqueness of Days Gone, and I think it should really be utilized a little bit better as opposed to throwing them all at the end, expecting you to just like rapid fire through them and be gods at them at that point. I think So, like an easy horde, and then a few medium hordes, and then a hard horde. Like, how hard is that? Like, come on. And then this one, Kevin brought up before the show started. I think it should be obvious. Not release the game when it's done. No glitches. Don't put it out too early. I feel like it doesn't need to be said, but come on, yeah.
Maybe it does.
The game shouldn't be broken. And, yeah.
Like it needs
and
to have glitches.
2 years.
Yeah.
The mini glitches were 2 years after the release. Now that patches are a thing. The game was still fairly glitchy, and one of my missions actually got bugged to where I had to restart it. That shouldn't be a thing after 2 years. That is, and I wasn't the only person who experienced that. Was on the internet. Multiple people had experienced it. I'm sure someone at Studio Band knew that glitch existed, and it should have been fixed. So hopefully they'll be able to wait a little bit longer to push that game. And that's everything. That's my Days Gone too. I'll write out a script for the spoiler cast for the plot. So we'll get into that later.
Zach's Days Gone 2 pitch was just like Days Gone, a little glitchy. Sorry about the audio issues.
Really glitchy. I think that
that sums it up pretty well.
Yeah. That'll be what Days Gone 2 is. A little glitchy. Or a lot glitchy. Or just non-existent. That's probably the most likely of the three.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's my pitch for Days Gone 2. Kind of sequence.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
We're losing Zach. We're losing Zach pretty significantly.
Yeah.
All right, should I go? Should I run through mine real quick?
Yeah, Logan, why don't you hop through yours? What game
I think
are you
we're running
making a sequel?
A little short on time. But apart from the obvious Victor Sullivan pentology, which we discussed on this show.
But that's more about story.
I'm going to go...
That's more.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the ones I clamor for all the time, like a true Monkey Ball sequel, things like that, Return to Ace Attorney, Where the Heck is Sports Stories, everything like that. Something I would really love to see is Captain Toad Treasure Tracker 2. I think Captain Toad is really underrated. I think it basically counts as a 3D Mario game. It is the sequel to 3D World that never happened. And I think something that could be really cool is a Captain Toad built around multiplayer puzzle boxes. So Captain Toad added multiplayer in the Switch port, but that's really a single player game. With how much camera movement and stuff there is, it really doesn't work to play with a second person very well. It's kind of clunky. So think about in A Way Out, and It Takes Two, but you're Toad and you're Toadette, and it's required to be multiplayer. You need two people to play this game, and these puzzle boxes are built around having two people and built around needing someone to do something so you can advance on your side of the puzzle and you have to collect things and work together. I think something like that with online play with local co-op could be super cool. I hope the Captain Toad isn't gone forever, because I was hopeful for a sequel when they brought it to Switch and they did that random DLC pack. I'm like, oh, is this not the end of Captain Toad? And now it's been radio silence for 3 years ever since that port came out. So I would really like them to return to Captain Toad, and I think a multiplayer angle could be something to really set it apart from the first game.
Yeah, just make sure that that people can change the camera by themselves, and not the multiplayer Captain Toad in Super Mario 3D World.
Which was also added. That was also a feature added, was multiplayer in that for the 3D World port. So they're clearly thinking about multiplayer.
They're getting there.
Captain
They're getting
Toad.
close.
Yeah, so that could be something really cool. Captain Toad is great, and I think Kevin needs to play the full game. If we were still doing the picks for each other. Oh yeah, it's great. It feels like 3D Mario game in a lot of ways.
It was fun in its short bursts in Super Mario 3D World, so I'd be down to play it again. Just depends on where the time is. I got so many other games over there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, we are running low on time, so I'll go through mine quick. Of course, it's Viva Pinata 3. Return to Paradise is what I would call it. So first, I want an increased garden size. I felt like the first game and the second game, they had garden increases that you could get throughout the game, but I didn't think it was enough. I feel like now that we are 2 generations from that, the last game came out in 2008 on the 360. They have the ability to make gardens much larger and also increase the amount of items and pinatas that you could have. I remember if you planted too many items, it wouldn't let you plant anymore because there were just like too many objects on screen in your garden. So now that we are 2 generations removed from that, they should have the ability to vastly increase the garden size and increase the amount of piñatas and items and plants that you can have in your garden at any time. I think the biggest addition that I like to see is terraforming not just like the ponds and digging holes, but also creating hills and slopes. I think that that'd be really cool to be able to do one extra level beyond like a piñata's height, like a large piñata. You could do one more level on top of that and to create some like depth with like hills and waterfalls and things to add to your garden. I'm not exactly sure how they would implement that. I think that they would have to do something different from their original design around the shovel and the digging. I feel like that would be a little bit too cumbersome to create the slopes with the shovel. So I think they'd have to create a new tool to be able to make the slopes relatively easily. But I think that would really increase the creativity for people to create the garden that they want. And seeing what Animal Crossing was able to do with its terraforming and how it's so easy to share their islands with all the different abilities that they have to craft an island that is theirs. I think that Viva Pinata could really serve itself well by having some sort of ability to have more terraforming options and to be able to craft slopes and hills to really mess with how your garden looks. Of course, new Pinata species, of course, 30 to 40 new types. And then in Trouble in Paradise, they added 2 biomes. They added a desert and an ice biome. I think that it'd be cool to add a 3rd biome. I was thinking like a rainforest or something like that. And then I think it would also be interesting to be able to start your plot at any one of those places. So in Trouble in Paradise, you could only travel to those places and get piñatas and bring them back. I think that it'd be cool as an option to be able to start your garden at any one of the biomes that you choose, either the desert, the ice place, a new one, maybe a rainforest, or just starting at the base regular garden would be cool. That is the main stuff. A more seamless transition between gardens to kind of have like connections between gardens if you're creating different gardens for different things. They had that a little bit in the first one, but I think a more seamless transition between the two and transferring piñatas between gardens would also be nice. And then just looking better. It would be on the Series X and S, so it would look even better than those original games did. Yeah, that is my plan. But I think they're busy with Sea of Thieves and that other. I forget. They announced something a while back.
I don't remember what it's called.
They're working on other stuff, so I doubt this will happen anytime soon, if ever. But if it does happen, those are some of my ideas.
Well, they have a different studio working on Perfect Dark. It doesn't have to be Rare.
It could be. Yeah. I wonder how that would turn out. But
it'd be Studio Bend.
Studio Bend. A Sony studio making an Xbox exclusive. That would be a play. Maybe that's the new project they're working on. They got
exactly.
Yeah, maybe so.
They're like, screw you, Sony. We're working on something for Microsoft now. But yeah, that is my plan for Viva Pinata 3 Return to Paradise. So we'll see if that happens at E3. Come on, Microsoft, give it to me. But yeah, I think we've run long enough. Any final thoughts before we wrap this episode up?
I have lost all excitement for Famicom Detective Club because Ace Attorney's in 2 months, so I don't care anymore about that other original.
Me
novel.
too.
Didn't think about that. I'm still interested in those games. Maybe not pick them up on launch, but I definitely want to try them out at some point. Definitely want to give them a shot. They still look like really good games. I keep seeing the side-by-sides from the original and the new one. I'm like, my God.
Yeah, that's cool. I'll still play them at some point, but I'm just less like, it was like this Ace Attorney, like, filling the gap, but now it's like the gap is 2 months. So it's like
don't have to wait very long.
Yeah, it took the spotlight a little bit.
So you just have to play them when you're done with the new ones.
Yep.
New Ace Attorney. Zach, was there anything from you? I'll have to.
I have no intention of ever playing Famicom Detective Club or Ace Attorney.
I thought you did. Did you not? Maybe not the Detective Club. I thought Ace Attorney would give it a shot. I knew you had to wait until it was full price, but
yeah. It's just never full price is the problem.
Oh yeah.
All right, that is going to do it for us on this week's episode of Ode to Games. We're here on Thursdays on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, other podcast streaming services that you may use. The audio version of the podcast is up on our website, odetogames.com, so you can check it out there. The video version of the podcast is on YouTube every week at Ode to Games, so if you want to catch the video version of the podcast, it is up there for you to watch. You can find us on Twitter at Ode to Games. Twitch, Ode to Games as well. You can send an email to odegamescast@gmail.com. For Logan and Zach, I'm Kevin. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.